I'm about to tell you 10 things I hate about my converted minivan. When I was building it, I watched a lot of videos like these and was trying my best with the budget and the tools I had, but that was 3 years ago. And because I had worked so hard on making it perfect, it took me till just now to really admit to myself, there are some things I don't like. That being said, a lot of things I don't like either come from one, I just don't know how to fix the problem, I don't see a solution, or two, I'm not sure how much more money I want to invest in this van. There's about 200,000 miles on it right now, and I know they say Toyotas last a long time, but you never really know. And honestly, there's just so much in my life I would like to invest more in. Money isn't necessarily growing on trees for me right now, so some of these things are just because I'm being cheap, I guess. But anyway, let's get to griping. Number one, the whole tire situation. This is kind of a long story, but I'll tell it as fast as possible. When I bought this van, it came with run flat tires, meaning if it got punctured, you could drive on it for up to 50 miles, so you could go to a mechanic instead of switching it to a spare tire. I didn't love the run flat tires, but I liked a lot else about this van, so I figured I'd give it a chance. Turns out, it was horrible. The one time my tire got punctured, I was in the Olympic Peninsula, far away from help, and I didn't make it in time, so it kind of exploded and did a whole lot of body damage. Then when I finally made it to the mechanic, I was like, I guess I'm just gonna have to do run flats again because I don't have any space in my build for a spare. Fast forward to this summer, that tire up there had a little hole in it. Luckily, this time I made it. Because it could either work out fine or be totally catastrophic, I was like, I'm gonna go ahead and switch to regular tires. Because I was buying 4 new tires though, it was really expensive, so the person working at Tire Discounters or whatever it was said, do you want to use one of your old tires as a spare instead of buying a spare? And I thought, okay, but the problem with that is these tires are much more wider and bigger than what I think spare tires typically are. This is actually the first vehicle I've ever owned. Anyway, now the problem is, where do I put this big old thing? Sometimes I have it buckled into my passenger seat if I don't think that I'm gonna need to give anyone a ride. If I am in the city, I'm not on a trip, I keep it in the back of my van, but it takes up so much space that it's really inconvenient. Some people have said to put it on my roof, but my solar panel takes up everything inside of these rails. If I was to put it up here, I don't feel like it would be secure enough. I could raise this potentially, but one of the things I really like about this solar panel is if you're just standing on the ground, you can't tell it's there, so it kind of helps my vehicle blend into everything else in the parking lot. I've seen on Jeeps and stuff where they have this rack that flips out and your spare tire is held on that, but my favorite part about being in a minivan is opening the trunk, having a little space to sit and a roof, or laying in bed in the morning and opening up the trunk. So being able to open the trunk is still a priority to me, so I don't want to do that either. And I looked up, where is the spare kept in a Toyota Sienna from 2011 when they don't have run flat tires? There was something behind the passenger seat on the floor of the van where you would crank it down, and I can't get to that anymore now that I built my own floor over top of it. Besides not being able to get to the original floor of the van in order to crank it down, I'm looking at the underneath of my van right now, and I don't see where that would even go. The second biggest problem with this van is that when I had the electrical installed, they chose to put an AGM battery here. If you can see this right here, it's kind of a bracket that screwed down into the floor. I had to take my van to the shop and it was inside overnight, so the battery got below half full, and for AGM batteries that damages them. Because of that, it never worked quite the same again. At the beginning of this summer, I actually got a new AGM battery, but it was a really multi-day process to pry the bracket off the old AGM. I had to get part of the metal cut so it would fit over the, whatever these things are called, the prongs of the new one, hammer it down over this, and now I still can't get it to screw in quite the same. Plus, I messed up putting the wires back on, so A lot going on wrong here. I need to get in contact with the people that installed this and ask about how to get it securely in there, because with these bungee straps it's working as a temporary solution. Like if I get in a wreck, I don't want this to go flying, but at the same time this just looks so bad, and I can't really open my trap door, which is one of my favorite things about this van, the fact that I have extra storage. But if I can't ever get to it, then might as well not have it, right? Okay, now the first two things I talked about in this video are really the main problems, and originally this video was just going to be 2 things I hate about my van, but once I started writing this list, there was like, oh yeah, and I don't like that, and I don't like that. So if these seem small and nitpicky, they are. I just figured I'd throw them on this list because it might help someone. I have a little fan for when it's hot, but what I really need to invest in is mosquito nets and maybe a bigger fan. I think they even have air conditionings that would work in a van like this. And although I'm not 100% comfortable with having a little buddy heater in here, it would be nice to have something for nights when it's really, really cold. Another solution would be if I only went places with nice weather. That was the original plan when building my van, but so far that hasn't always worked out. Problem number 4 is that I have too much stuff. When I film a van tour, for example, I would put everything away, everything is in its space, it doesn't look crowded and cluttered, but in real life, when I'm on a trip in this thing, it's so easy not to put everything away in its designated place all the time, and it just feels really, really cluttered. Honestly, that's a me problem. I need to just be tidier, be better about putting stuff away. But anyway, that is something I really get frustrated about this van for. I planned this towel to always have a place right here, so I would know where it was. It would have a place to hang and dry, very handy. But this is a drawer pull. I should have got a bigger towel bar, but it was too late by the time I realized, and now if I replaced it, there'd be holes in the wood. So number 6, again, this is really picky, but we needed a leg for my floor to stand on. There wasn't any more 2x4s like this, so we were just using scraps of plywood, and we needed something a little higher, so we used cardboard. We shouldn't have done that. We should have found some other piece of wood to use, because cardboard can mold. It hasn't so far. It looks like it's doing fine, but that's something I always think about. Oh, I wish I would have done that different. Number 7 is for a whole 6 months when I was hiking the AT, my van was just sitting and it got really, really hot inside. It got so hot in here that the Velcro I used on the backs of my curtains to be removable, the Velcro kind of got unsticky, so now I can't use the curtains because the fabric doesn't want to stay on the Velcro. I have tried sewing through this, but it bends up your needle and it just isn't good. Honestly, I haven't looked at this in a little bit and I think it might have re-adhesived itself. So, nice. Let's see how long that stays. Hi, it's Maddie from 24 Hours Later, and the curtains stayed! What the heck? What are the odds? This is the first time in my life I've just let a problem go and it kind of fixed itself. Number 8, I wish this counter wasn't so high. I couldn't really help it because it's made out of the like cubic storage unit thing, but if I'm sitting up, it's just weirdly high sometimes. I wish it was a little lower, but not the biggest problem, of course. Number 9 is I used burlap to hang off my bed, so the boxes and things that hold my clothes wouldn't be as visible and it would look a little tidier. But the problem with burlap is that it really frayed. I wish I had either used heat to kind of melt it and seal it all together, or alternatively maybe some hot glue would have worked to keep it from eventually fraying really bad. I am using duct tape in some places, but it's not as good as if it was a solution from the beginning. And the 10th thing I don't like so much about this build is that my life has changed so much since I built it. I designed it for one person traveling full-time. Now, on the AT, I met my boyfriend, we have an apartment together, and I just take this out on trips for maybe a few days, maybe a few weeks. but I definitely wish there was more room for 2 people, less space for clothes and stuff, because now I don't have everything I own with me. But don't get me wrong, I am really appreciative of this van, even though I am kind of being really critical right now. I just wanted to make this video to say, hey, even if you're trying to make it the best you possibly can, unless you have endless amounts of money, there are gonna be some things that get on your nerves regardless. In fact, the next videos I film are going to be the 2 of us going to New Hampshire. It'll be difficult being 2 people in a van only designed for 1, but we'll make it work. Thank you for watching and have a good rest of your day.